TE Talks with Guides is a weekly podcast for lovers of history, travel, and all things Italian. Welcome back, everybody, to TE Talks, sponsored by Through Eternity Tours. I'm your host, Rob Allen, and on TE Talks, we get to talk with some of the most fascinating people who make a living out of being wonderful storytellers. And always remember, if you enjoy this podcast and you've enjoyed our others, please remember to write a review and give us a 5-star rating. It is extremely helpful to get the word out and let other people know about who we are and what we are doing. So today I have a very special guest. This is Zia Lucia, or let's call her Lucy. Ciao, Lucy.
Ciao a tutti. Nice to meet you.
Lovely. So Lucy is a guide who works with us who lives in Positano. And I had the pleasure of meeting her in October, late October. It was a rainy day, but regardless of the weather, Positano is still always so beautiful. So how are you today, Lucy?
Fine. It's a little bit cold outside, but we are really, really happy in Positano.
I would imagine. I can imagine who wouldn't be happy in one of the most beautiful places in the world. So could you do me a favor and tell me or tell us a little bit about yourself, when you became a guide, how long you've been being a guide, growing up in Positano, etc.?
Sure. I started 15 years ago because I wanted to give to people the possibility to see the Amalfi Coast from a local point of view. As everybody comes and enjoys Positano just for the beach time and just for the special cocktails and food we have, I wanted to give a different experience to people, because Positano, as the entire Amalfi Coast, are full of history, traditions, and I deeply wanted to be a tour guide, also for archaeological sites like Pompeii, some parts of Capri and Napoli, but it was very complicated. So my ex-boyfriend decided to start a tour company for hiking tours. And we started being guides for the Path of the Gods, where actually I'm living at the moment, because I live not in the center of Positano, but on the hills above Positano, in a little place called Nocelle, which is at the beginning or the end of Path of the Gods. And we started being hiking guides. And later, in 2016, I finally got the license to be a professional archaeological guide. So I decided to extend my job to different things. So today I'm organizing hiking tours, but also cultural tours, food tours, because I love eating and drinking.
Okay.
And I do lots of tours that talk about local people and the people who decided to come here and to live in Positano and in the Amalfi Coast as a place to live, just to change their lives.
Yes, I've been seeing that. I've actually been seeing some kind of social influencers. There's a girl who's an American who's living in, it's all about living in Positano. So I'm really happy that you brought up something that I brought up a couple of times in previous podcasts, like walking the Via Francigena. And I remember speaking to you about it the day that we saw each other, was that I desperately want to walk on what you call the, how do you say in Italian, Pista degli Dei, so the path of the gods.
Sentiero degli Dei, yes.
Sentiero?
Yes.
Okay, vabbè. Perfetto, thank you. So the Path of the Gods is such an intriguing thing to me, and I had to take in one of those path walks in the Cinque Terre up in Genoa, the Genoa area of Liguria, and it was so beautiful. And I know that as beautiful as the Cinque Terre are, it's just like almost like you raise it up a notch when you come to the Amalfi Coast. It seems like it's higher. And I really, really wanted to take that path, but, it was a rainy day. I think even you had said maybe it's not the best idea. And I was glad I didn't, because I didn't want to slip, and it was a bit too rainy to have enjoyed it. But I very much am looking forward to coming back and taking this walk.
Well, we will go there whenever you like.
Uh-huh.
Hopefully, it doesn't rain next
Yeah.
time. And I can tell you, the Amalfi Coast looks like Cinque Terre.
Mhm.
Many places, for example, Monte Rosso looks like Amalfi or Adrani. And the mountains are similar. More or less, vegetation is similar, even if we have different varieties of wild orchids and local plants that you are not able to find in Cinque Terre. And mostly, I think the scenery is dramatic like Cinque Terre.
Yes.
And many trails are very easy for people who generally hike every time, but for people who start doing this kind of tour for the first time, lots of trails are rocky and very uneven. So it is recommended not to do them when it rains or when it's very windy. And of course, we must pay attention. But Path of the Gods became the most popular, especially when I started being an hiking guide. Mm-hmm. And now there are even sometimes 600 to 1,000 people per day.
Wow. That's pretty incredible. That's, if I have to say the Amalfi Coast, because most people, and we can also, I know that you also very much love Naples. We had a lovely discussion while we were having cocktails at the end of the day. But the Amalfi Coast is a very, very special place in the minds, I think, of many people. And for a long time now, it is the quintessential vacation resort area of Italy. And it has this kind of chicness about it. And I think what is the crown jewel of the Amalfi Coast is the city of Positano. So in this year, I was traveling with friends at the end of July. I was speaking with Cosentino from Capri about my experience there. And then I also got to see it when I saw you in October when we were doing our TE Destinations video, and how different it is, but all so very beautiful. But in July, when we were arriving on a catamaran at night, it was just spectacular. I can't really compare it to many other places. Would you say arriving by boat is one of the best ways to see Positano?
I think so. I think the best way to see Positano is by the sea. Even if I'm a hiking guide, I mean, you should see the Amalfi Coast from different perspectives, like the mountains, the roads, the helicopter, if you have the possibility. Oh. But the most emotional arrival in Positano, I think it's by the sea, because by the sea you have a perspective that you don't have in other places. And also, I don't know if you noticed it, but there's the Church of Positano. Even if people from Positano, there are some people who are Catholic and some people who are not. But for us, the church, for everybody, the church is very special. And it's just right in the center of the beach. And it's surrounded by two mountains that looks like the letter M, like the Virgin Mary. Because we really care about our Byzantine icon that we have inside the Church of Positano. So it's very emotional even for us to come to Positano by the sea, because we always remember about the procession we do during the 15th of August. And also we remember all the traditions that are linked to fishermen. And it's beautiful, not only because it's beautiful, but because for us it's very important. And I think Positano has a special energy. So when you come to Positano for the first time by the sea, you soon are how do you say, not involved, but you soon get this energy. You are inside this energy. And
It becomes infectious, in a way, or, just so you brought up and you get part of it, I would say. Sure. I got the opportunity to go my second trip because I wanted to do it, the archaeological digs that are underneath the church. And it was very, very interesting to me, the Roman house with those spectacular frescoes that you could see. But it was also, I mean, this is a little bit macabre and very different from Positano, because Positano really for me is like the kind of the joy of life. But it was a place where the monks, I guess, I found this to be awful and fascinating and really morbid. But that they had the chairs where they would sit down, the bodies, and they had holes. So it wasn't like there was a latrine; it was just a hole underneath the chair, so that any liquids that had to exhume, go out from the body as it was decaying and then become mummified. So there was a lot of those chairs on display. That's what kind of sat with me going through the digs underneath the church. But, it was kind of proof that there was an ancient, fascinating villa, Roman villa, before it even became a fishing village, Positano.
Yes, and we believe, because we're still studying about it, but we believe that the owner of the Roman villa was called Posides.
Ah,
so if this theory is good, is right, the name of Positano derives from the owner of the villa, because it was the only villa at that time existing on the coastline. Because as probably you know, lots of the villas built by the Romans along the Amalfi Coast and Sorrento, and even on the Bay of Naples, they were villas for rich patricians who just went there for summertime. Mm-hmm. So the villa was also for 200 people, and it's all underneath the center of Positano, so it's very big. Mm-hmm. And the owner was called the Posides. So if it's right, the name of Positano derives from this rich patrician. Mm-hmm. But we need to explore it.
I think Costantino was telling me that in Capri, I guess it became more popular because of the Grand Tour. Is that when Positano also started to get this intrigue, like people coming to it as a spot for vacation in our modern times?
Well, not as popular as Capri or Ravello during the Grand Tour, but it became popular later because as Capri was at the beginning of the 1900s was a jet set place. Lots of people who didn't want to live in Capri decided to live in Positano. And there were people who were mostly not only British lords, but there were people like, rich people who didn't want to live with their families in England or in Switzerland, and they decided to live in Positano instead of Capri because Positano was quieter. And later, at the beginning of World War II, lots of Jewish escaped from Germany and Russia, and they started living in Positano because Positano was isolated. And all those people were mostly painters or writers. So they started painting on ceramics. They started writing poems and stories about the lifestyle of Positano in 1940s. And later, Positano became popular also thanks to those writings or thanks to the paintings they painted.
So it became a type of isolated artists' colony, let's say, and then inevitably, I always think of Greenwich Village in New York becoming an artist colony, but then they become the most beautiful, sought-after places for people. Artists, obviously, chose these places because they are beautiful. And then, then everyone else wants to join in on them. Can we talk about this? Because I remember I was also very intrigued. Dylan and I both were very, very intrigued about what you were bringing up. And then Ravello, because that day we had also seen in Ravello the beautiful gardens up there. Can you remind me again? Those are some of the most stunning gardens I've ever seen.
Villa Cimbrone. The gardens of Villa Cimbrone.
Yes, the gardens of Villa Cimbrone, because it's now a hotel, and then the gardens themselves are just stunning, with the most spectacular views one could possibly ever imagine, because Ravello is really, really high up on the Amalfi Coast. And I mean, it's not one place that you stay if you want to go swimming in the water. There you go in Positano. But you were saying that because it was Villa Cimbrone was owned by a gentleman who may have had at the time scandalous background because he was a homosexual. It became some way in Capri and Positano on the Amalfi Coast was a place where people could live, I guess, safely and be, I don't know, hidden away from the society of England.
Yes, it's true. It's true because mostly this comes from Napoli. And for us, it's always been easy and simple to live our lives without judging other people. So since the 1800s, there were lots of people who were coming to Napoli, Positano, and Ravello. Positano, not a lot, but Capri and Ravello, because, for example, their families in England didn't accept their way of living. And a lot of them were gay, so they decided to have their free life finally on the Amalfi Coast. And Villa Cimbrone is one of the symbols of this kind of life because the owner, who was called Lord Grimthorpe, was also a friend of Virginia Woolf. And they were coming during the summertime in the villa just to write and enjoy their life, which was considered different in other places. And also, for example, lots of writers, even friends of this lord, decided to write different poems, like was the writer who wrote Lady Chatterley's Lover? You remember? It's
I'll look it up.
I always talk about him, but I forgot it right now. D.H. Lawrence. D.H. Lawrence also.
D.H. Lawrence. Okay.
He also was a friend of Lord Grimthorpe, and he decided to come to Ravello, and he wrote the last chapter of Lady Chatterley's Lover in Villa Cimbrone. So that was a symbol, like other villas in Capri. For example, like Villa Lisis, probably you've seen it. And it was very special for them to live their lives here. And also it was just normal for us. We didn't care who they were. And I think this was the same also for Franco Zeffirelli, who decided in the 1980s to create his beautiful luxury villa in Positano, and he was the one who brought here the jet set. So like actors, writers, even Rudolf Nureyev at the beginning was a friend of Zeffirelli, and then they had a fight and they decided to buy the islands that are in front of Positano. So there are lots of stories connected to people like artists or writers or just people who, as I told you, wanted to live their lives in a way that was considered different in other places.
Yeah, I remember that was the thing that I think we had loved so much when we were talking about you, and why it's so wonderful to have a guide, because you go through the layers much deeper in understanding, because there are certain reasons why a place like this have kind of become created and why it's so special and so very, very beautiful and intriguing. We were, also at the day with the driver, and they drove by and they showed us the island that Nuria was living on. And now I think it's like it's a luxurious villa that you can rent by paying an exorbitant amount of money, like big time. That's right. Because I remember also, so you've done a lot of stuff. You work as a guide. You started as a hiking guide. And you also, I was introduced to you because you also used to be involved with beautiful villas to be rented out by people coming through. And that's something that you're still involved in, or not so much? You do it, or you have a...
Not like in the past, because I love being a guide, and I love meeting people and talking to people. In fact, I talk too much, I know.
Not at all.
But I love being a luxury concierge as well for those villas. And sometimes well, as I know the owners of those villas, and lots of the villas are historical villas with great histories that people can tell. Sometimes we organize just welcome in instead of check-in, where we do, for example, we explain the villa and we tell to people the history of the villa. And some of the villas are hidden gems. They are really, really beautiful. And I'm not, as I told you, I'm not working as a concierge like in the past, but it's something that I still like to do.
Oh, that's really, I would love to be able to know more about that. That's such a lovely idea of a welcome in as opposed to a check-in. Yeah, and you just know that there are just so many special places around there to be able to see them must be truly amazing. Now, you also said that you don't do it as much anymore, but you love to cook and you love to drink, as do I. And that's why I was admiring you, because you can't see this, but we're on a video call with Zoom, but she has a lovely kitchen with some of these kind of very beautiful tiles in the background. But I said, I can tell that you cook. What is it that you like to prepare, or what do you think are foods that could represent Positano?
Eggplant parmigiana. I know it sounds simple, but well, eggplant parmigiana is a traditional dish we cook for the 15th of August when we have the biggest celebration. Mary, but our eggplant parmigiana is not the one you find everywhere because it's deep fried. And pieces of eggplants are fried like in tempura. Then we link them together with the mozzarella and the tomato sauce and the basil leaf, and we put it in the oven in 10 minutes. So that eggplant parmigiana, it's very, very fat, but we really love it. And another dish that can be a symbol of Positano, I think, is something called totani e patate, because totani is a sort of red squid we fish outside. We fish outside Positano, and they are very tasty. We also call them tomato squids, and we boil them in tomato sauce with lots of potatoes. And we always fight with the village of Praiano, because the village of Praiano, which is the town next to Positano, has the same recipe, but they deep fried the potatoes and squids inside a pan. So completely different, even if we live close by.
And so you guys consider your dishes better than theirs, or just a different flavor?
Yes, of course. No, we consider that our totani patate better, but I can tell you that I really love the deep fried recipe. I cannot tell it to people who live here in Positano, otherwise they kill me. I love the version from Praiano.
Oh, wow. I have to make sure that the next time I'm down there, I have to say, I feel so lucky because I live in Rome. And so I know I don't have that far away to get there. And I imagine anybody who kind of comes to these areas that, you just want to come back again and again and again, because it's kind of this lifestyle, even as a tourist, but just going there, it's really, really special. And it's not just kind of like, I've been here, I've seen it, I don't need to see it again. There are just so many layers of Positano that you can really, truly experience, and the Amalfi Coast and all these different towns. I remember that night after I saw you, because we were taking the public transport to get back to Sorrento, and we missed the bus, so we had to wait, and it was raining. And where the bus stop was, I was like, oh, forget this. I'm not going to sit under the rain. And we walked I was like, oh, this looks like a nice hotel. Because my father's a travel agent. He's worked in the travel industry. He's always taught me, check out these hotels. They're really wonderful. I think I probably walked in the most expensive hotel of Positano, but it was beautiful. Now, of course, I'm being terrible with my pronunciation today. Living in England, I don't know. Sirenense?
No, Sirenuse.
Sirenuse, ecco. Okay, Sirenuse. My God, that place was so beautiful. I just, probably the most expensive cocktail I've ever had. But it was just, we were by the pool, we were protected from the rain, and they had white lights in the restaurant. I think it's like a Michelin restaurant with vines inside. I mean, it was just stunning. Do you know anything about the hotel? Can you tell us
Well, of
anything about
course.
this?
I can tell you everything about
Ah,
it.
lovely.
And that hotel became popular thanks to John Steinbeck, because
Okay.
John Steinbeck in 1965 wrote a beautiful article about Positano called Positano for the Harper's Bazaar book.
Huh.
And he was the owner at that time of Hotel Les Cyrenews, which was mostly a villa more than a hotel, was also the mayor of Positano.
Mm-hmm. Oh, they're convenient.
John Steinbeck wrote about it, about the lifestyle in Positano, and then people, especially rich people from the States, started coming to the Hotel Les Cyrenews because they wanted to see it. The Harper's Bazaar was like Condé Nast, like
Sure.
Condé Nast Traveler at that time. So it was very special. And later, this is another reason why Positano became popular, because John Steinbeck wrote about the lifestyle of Positano, the hotel and other things of Positano. So as many people started coming to Positano because they wanted to experience what he wrote, and they wanted to see Positano. And that was the beginning of everything. And the Hotel Sirene also was also a set for a very special movie that was called Only You. And a movie that was set even in Rome, and the main actor was Robert Downey Jr.
Okay. Okay. Now I have to watch that movie. I have not watched it.
And it's very well. The plot is nothing special, but it's a nice love story. And you see different things of Positano of 1980s, and, which sometimes, the beauty of Positano is that when you come after 10 or 20 years, everything is the same. I don't know if it's good or bad, but if you see some spots of Positano in that movie, they are the same of Positano right now. And the name of the hotel, which is Les Cyrenews, it's because in front of the hotel, you can see Ligali Islands, which are the islands bought by Rudolf Nureyev, and they are considered the islands of the sirens of Greek. So that's why the name of the hotel is called the Les Cyrenews.
Ah, beautiful. I loved it. They even have a wonderful website and newsletter. And I was just, I'm kind of enamored with this place because I love these truly unique, special hotels. I found one once on Martha's Vineyard called the Charlotte Inn, which was just really gorgeous. They kind of transport you to a different time. I think, as you were saying, Positano itself does that as well. I even remember that the building, it seemed to be that it was unique in its color compared to everything else, which is generally pastel colors, the buildings of Positano, which are so stunning. But this was a Pompeian red almost, I think you would say.
It's called the Pompeian red, and people confuse it with the Positano red, but we copied that style from the frescoes that were discovered in the ruins of Pompeii. That's why it's called the Pompeian red. And it's the typical color of Positano as well, because as you see, especially if you come by boat, you can see that the main buildings have that color.
Yes. And so you've mentioned a couple of writers. So John Steinbeck has written an article in Harper's Bazaar about Positano, staying in the hotel. You've mentioned D.H. Lawrence writing Lady Chatterley's Lover. Do you know of any other famous writers who have written things that are connected to Positano that one can look up?
Well, there were many who wrote about the Amalfi Coast because the other writers were mostly writers from World War II, Jewish, who were not very popular. And we had lots of artists coming here. For example, the owner of the tower that you see in Fornillo Beach.
Sure.
You remember the tower?
Yes.
It's a villa to rent at the moment, but the first owner, who was called Gilbert Clavel, wrote a beautiful book that is called, well, it's very weird to say, but it's called An Institute for Suicides. And
Oh my God. Okay.
yeah, but it was very special because it was the connection between all the main artists who were in Positano at the time, like Pablo Picasso or uh, people who were closer to Pablo Picasso, like Stravinsky and Aguilev, who were artists. And Positano was also a place to inspire the people like Picasso or Meassin, who was the owner of Regali Island, to make a beautiful ballet called The Parade, for example. So not only writers, but artists in general.
This is wonderful. Listen, Lucy, can I also ask you, though, to wrap up our lovely little chat about this, what would you say, in your experience, would be the best time of year to visit Positano, considering all of the flow of the tourists when things are back to normal? Or what would you think as your, if you could tell somebody?
Yeah, I love the last 2 weeks of September. The first week of September is still busy, but the last weeks of September are amazing, and also lights, sunlights that we had in September are something special. You don't find them in other. You don't find the lights of Positano. I know it sounds weird to talk about light, but the Amalfi Coast changes every year depending on the sunlight. Sure. So, for example, now in winter it's beautiful, but the light is very smooth and it's mostly orange. The lights of September are vibrant. So the colors are amazing and it's not very crowded. It's still time when you can swim and enjoy the beach area. You can hike without sweating. People are more friendly. I mean, the locals, because during the high season, which is mostly in between June and August, local people don't take care as they generally do. It means that they are friendly, they are nice, but we love interacting with people and we love meeting people. So you come as a tourist and you leave as a friend. If you come in August, you come as a tourist and you leave as a tourist that loves Positano.
Sure, this is a very true. When would you say the springtime, like the best time for when everything is in flowering, would be April or?
Well, April and May are nice, but it depends on the year because sometimes it rains. So that's the biggest problem of April and May. But the nature is amazing. It's beautiful. We also have lots of wild orchids in the mountains. But of course, you can get the fog and the rain every time. Not the fog, the how do you say? It's hazy. It's hazy, or sometimes it hails as well.
Oh my gosh! I have to say though, even though it was foggy and rainy on the day that we came there in October. It was still very, very beautiful because of the gray with the contrast of the colors of the buildings. I think we have some lovely drone shots that we tock, and we're going to incorporate that on our videos so that people can see that as well. I have to say one thing though, and I was just thinking about it, reflecting while you were talking, because you said that people, like, there's an energy that happens in Positano. I remember the first time I ever saw Positano was in January, and I didn't understand all of the clothing shops because I said, oh my God, these are really not fitting with winter, obviously. But when I went there again in late July, I got it, because, and it's so interesting. And I was like, okay, this is like the style of Positano, but then the style of Amalfi and the whole islands, and in general, that I think because I think this being one of the most famous resort areas in the world, when people started to go to vacation, has affected everyone else. But it's just so beautiful. Everyone was beautiful, and everyone was dressing in these like very vibrant colors, and the linens and like the bright blues and yellows and prints that, normally one would think maybe it was tacky, but because in this context, it just was stunning. So stunning to see everyone involved in it. It was beautiful.
Yes, and we love to dress up. We love to dress up even just to do the shopping, not in winter time, in the summertime, because, we always had linen and hemp here on the mountains. And at the beginning, of course, we were producing linen, just the fabrics to sell them everywhere in the world. And in 1960s, when Positano started becoming a little bit popular and the artists started coming to Positano, they were making with our fabrics beautiful, very comfortable, fluffy dresses, and they started walking barefoot, and this became fashionable. So the fashion of Positano until I think 10 years ago was very popular. That's why you can see lots of linen shops. And of course, so that's why you can see sandals, because, for example, Jackie Kennedy came to Positano and Capri, started buying I don't know how many pairs of sandals and wearing our sandals. So now everybody comes to the Amalfi Coast to buy a linen dress and a pair of customized sandals.
Well, thank you so much, Lucy, for this, because I mean, it's just lovely. Anything I bring up to you, and you have the rich history that connects it, because when you come there, we don't understand why, but there are reasons as to why this happens, and you certainly make it come alive for people, because like bringing up like Jackie Kennedy, probably, as you say, the Positano that Jackie Kennedy saw is a Positano that one can see today, and that's probably why people love it so much. And I want to thank you very much for your time, because you are, and for anybody listening to this, if you're planning on going to Positano, Lucy is obviously the person that you want to go see, but she gets very busy very quickly. So you have to book her up way in advance. There's not a lot of people who just work around in the area or have the opportunity of a true Positanese, right?
Right.
You figure I'd be living in Rome, Italy for 6 months as opposed to 25 years sometimes, but there you go. Anyway, again, grazie mille. And for all of our listeners, everybody, please remember, if you are interested in these podcasts, give us a review, give us a rating. A 5-star rating is very, very helpful. And if you have any questions for me, or specifically Lucy, she's brought up so many wonderful things, please write to us at office@througheternity.com, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Merry Christmas, Lucy, because we're right around December. Buone feste.
Buon Natale.
Buon Natale. And I hope that you have a lovely time.
You too. Grazie.
Thank you. Ciao.
Ciao.
Thank you for listening to our TE Talks with Guides. We have a new episode every Wednesday. Please subscribe to get an alert when each podcast comes out. Rate us and tell people how you enjoyed it, and share it on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. Most importantly, if you enjoyed it, send us a feedback about the show. Also, if you are curious about what some of these people and places we talked about look like, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel and watch the video on this podcast, where we have inserted special images for you to further enjoy the story.